Hello, we are students from the master's program in the pedagogy of English as a foreign language, and we are here to present our lesson plan for phonemic awareness instruction. Introduction. The lesson was designed for pre-A1 students between the ages of 5 to 8 years old who are developing or struggling on early literacy skills, specifically in the English language. Therefore, the instruction of basic phonemic awareness subskills such as phoneme isolation is essential to facilitate the next step, which is recognition of graphemes. In addition, the goal of this instruction is for teachers to take in consideration the different methods, approaches, and strategies available to continue with the instruction of all the phoneme sounds that include vowels, consonants, and consonant digraphs. Students at this age are interested in interactive and playful teaching, where they would like to be included and praised as active participants to prove their abilities. Taking into consideration the context of a homogeneous classroom, it was important to include the different learning styles, levels of knowledge, and number of students. In this lesson, different methods and approaches such as the audiolingual method, TPR, and multisensory approach will be included. Furthermore, the objectives of the lesson are for students to identify and pronounce the phoneme sound B correctly and to isolate the initial sound in each word. This instruction can be done in a 40 to 50-minute class depending on the school schedule.
Yes, what is the audiolingual method? One of the methods used for the design of the lesson is this one, especially, which will be used to teach and make emphasis on the identification of the P sound in initial words. For these lesson instructions, it will include non-native language, actions and images to give meaning, emphasizes on a specific problem. Here, the role of the teacher is to lead and direct the language behavior of the students. This way, a student will follow the teacher's directions and respond accurately and as rapidly as possible. The TPR instructions will be at the beginning to warm up, use it for noticing period. It is teaching strategies that are based on practice, drilling, and memorization that are directed through tasks to obtain correct answers. The students play a reactive role by responding to the stimulus and thus have a little control over the content, phase, or style of learning, as Richard and Rogers in 1986 mentioned. The purpose of this warm-up is to engage the learner through the phoneme exposure that includes the storytelling and repetition of words with flashcards to practice the target vocabulary. The teacher will continue to explicit instructions for the students to consciously process the correct articulation of the phoneme. By modeling the articulation of the sound, mouth movement, and by touching their throat, they will also notice the vibration of the voice sound, like ba, ba.
The design of the lesson is the following. First, it will begin with a warm-up where the teacher tells a story using TPR. The story will include words that have initial B sounds such as boy, basketball, birds, ball, and basket. Oh boy, there is a boy who loves to play basketball. Even the birds watch him play. He dribbles the ball, and in the basket it goes. For the noticing phase to occur, the teacher will have to repeat the story with the students, and once they have been familiarized with vocabulary, they can reenact with the teacher modeling. The explicit instruction will continue with an introduction of the teacher, showing students a set of flashcards and having it repeat. Boy, basketball, birds, ball, and basket. Then the teacher repeats, B as in boy, B as in basketball, B as in birds, B as in ball, and B as in basket by making emphasis on the mouth movement of the B sound. Alongside, by placing the hands on the throat, students would notice its vibration and understand the significance of a boy sound. For students to differentiate articulation between other sounds, we can tell them it is called lip poppers.
Now, we are going to explain why we decided to make use of the multisensory approach as well. As we previously mentioned, students like to play while learning, and it's crucial to take into account all the different styles that our students have when we plan our lessons. So the multisensory approach has proven to be beneficial for students with speech and language disorder. Additionally, many authors have mentioned that the multisensory approach can create an ideal and natural learning environment in our classes. And it also engages the student. So students are going to have fun through the use of the multisensory approach. Finally, the last benefit we think that the multisensory approach can give to our students is that by making use of different tools, it can provide our students with more paths of information because different body senses are involved in the instruction of phonemes. In our case, we are using the finger tapping technique in order to show our students that sounds and graphemes are connected. By using the finger tapping technique, we are explicitly teaching the sounds of letters, the B in isolation. Additionally, by implementing the finger tapping technique, teachers can provide the students with feedback, which will be and the feedback will be based on each individual performance. So the sum of all of these activities will help with future encoding, the speaking and decoding the reading abilities.
The guided practice will continue with the instruction of finger tapping technique. Here the teacher will cut out CVC words, which are consonant, vowels, and consonants. Words, for example, b, a, t, or b, e, d, b, a, g, in which students will repeat. Once familiarized with a technique, the teacher will ask if they heard the b at the beginning or at the end of a word. The teacher will use the technique to elicit the question and will call out for more examples if needed. Here, students can be active participants by deducing by themselves or also in pairs. The independent practice will be done through a worksheet in which students will have to draw a circle around the pictures that begin with the letter B or with the sound B. Once the teacher provides monitoring and feedback, the lesson will conclude with a wrap-up, where different flashcards are placed around the classroom, and the teacher says the target vocabulary. The students run to the word. Additional words that do not include the B sound can be used to see how they can differentiate from other phonemes.
As this example shows us, voice sound, articulatory phonetics is like the UBC visible speech. Evan Axford, a PhD linguist, said that when the air passes through vibrating vocal cords, we call this voice sound. And if if you're male, you touch this part, the Adam cord. If you're female, you also put your hand over here, and you start producing ba sound, and there's a vibration which will come out in this position, in this part of the body. And then we got the phonological rule. In our case, phonological rule is commonly used in generative phonology. as a notation of capturing sound related to the verb sound in this case. In our activity with the students, we will focus on segmental, which refers to sound units arranged in sequential order. As we see the graphic design, description of the sound before change, which is consonant plus voiced, becomes consonants and less voiced. And then in the case of place of phoneme, description of phoneme following the affected phoneme, which is consonant and less voiced.
Now, regarding the question if we are teaching something beneficial to our students' acquisition of English, we believe that students are benefited in regards of interlanguage phonology. Firstly, Kivisto de Souza sees the interlanguage as a point in a continuum in which students move from L1 to the target language. So taking this into account, this activity in which students can recognize the initial phoneme sound, but in a word, we list the transition of interlanguage from the native to the target language. Similarly, as the students will be practicing segmentation with the tapping technique, in our case, the B sound, we are contributing to raise phonemic awareness. This is of utmost importance since eventually it will help students read and understand that letters in words are represented by sounds. Later, we can even use the same techniques, the finger tapping technique, to practice blending, for example, and segmentation, segmenting the final sound. And finally, we agreed that L2 phonology is acquired through noticing. So, which means that there should be explicit attention or conscious attention during the first stage of input to intake stage of learning. So this is especially important to make students notice since in English, each letter can have a different sound depending on the position or depending on the word as well. So because we have to remember that in English we have 26 letters, but we can have approximately 40 phonemes or sound units. So all of these activities paired with constant practice and quality of input will result in three things: the proceduralized knowledge about L2 pronunciation. Secondly, the development of learner L2 phonology. And finally, eventually students will be effective communicators in the foreign language. And all of these are the references that we used to plan this class. Thank you very much.